And that's a reminder that you can ask questions only by typing, because all the listeners, all the people that are here are in listen-only mode, so you will not be able to speak. So please, if you do have a question during one of the presentations, type it here. I can see it, and I will read it out at the end of the presentations and ask the respective person to answer it. So just to remind, type the question when we get along, and unfortunately we are not able to have everyone speak, so you will not be able to talk, so you can just listen. I hope that's clear for everyone, and I was just reflecting a little bit on water sports yesterday, and they said water is the new gold. It's a saying that's often used. Apparently water prices are going up quicker than the gold price, and even though water covers roughly 70% of the Earth's surface, only 2.5% of it is drinkable. And by 2050, I saw from a presentation from one of the people that is attending here today, there will be more plastic than fish in our ocean. So something is going horribly wrong. Because seas and rivers and oceans and streams, they give us the opportunity to organize amazing sport events. And that's part of the key topics of this seminar, is how can we prevent events to further pollute the water? Or on the flip side, how can we use sport, or water sport in particular, to address some of the urgent environmental issues that we are facing? We have with us today 3 experts, as I mentioned before. We have Anne-Cécile Turner, we have Katrien Wieser, and we have Lars Bocking. And I asked each of them, one after the other, to share a little bit of their experience, each on a different angle from their sport, from their experience to tell. And they will show also some videos probably that illustrate what they're talking about. To start with, I would like to ask Anne-Cécile Turner to talk to us about her experience. And let me just introduce you, Anne-Cécile, who is largely based here in Lausanne, but she brings many years of experience within the private industry into the sport industry, in particular as sustainability program leader of the Ocean Race, previously known as the Volvo Ocean Race. And besides that, she's also founding director of the Blue Shift, an agency that helps organizations to embed sustainability throughout the entire value chain. I will bring up a presentation with a few things that Anne-Cécile wants to talk about, but I would like to ask Anne-Cécile to take the lead and to talk us through some of her experience. Anne-Cécile.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm mixing phone and computer, so I was not too sure. So I will start with a little video that will explain it all, and then I have a quick few slides to talk about. So if you can launch the video. So while the video is launched, we're going to see if it's working. I can talk through it a little bit in the idea of sport, using the power and the voice of sport to influence positive change. And that video is talking about the last edition of the Volvo Ocean Race, where we have implemented a very holistic and extensive sustainability program. I'm going to carry on talking until the video is starting, and when it starts, I will stop. So the idea behind that program was really to talk about and raise awareness first about the issues on ocean health. The ocean is obviously our playground, and we really need to make sure we preserve it, but also not only preserving it by our own actions, but by our voice. And our sailors, who are the first ambassadors and the first witness of our core focus, which was last time the plastic pollution, have a voice to raise and also have a potential really positive contribution. Is the video not launching, or?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
drift avoid. We're about to deploy him into the Southern Ocean.
We've been able to gather microplastic data concentration into a global map to understand better where is the pollution. It's more about where it's not than where it is.
There's just an unbelievable amount of marine debris. Seeing all kinds of stuff, plastic bags and nets and different sorts of bottles, and it's really sad to see.
Visibility of those nutrients.
The Global Ocean Race, 8-month-long race around the world, trying to raise awareness of the damage done to our oceans through plastic waste. This is really the end of the beginning. We're really happy to continue the partnership, to use this platform for engagement and empowering people. I think we have just seen the start of it.
When the oceans are our playground, we think it's our duty to do everything we can to help to preserve this playground. And we want to go even bigger, wider in the future, to take it even further and really do everything we can to protect our oceans.
I think that there's a growing awareness around the world about the problem of waste, whether it's on land or in the ocean. In the 12 stopover cities around the world, 3 million people were touched, thousands of people at the ocean summits. And in that sense, we have definitely created a template that other supporting organizations can use. And as much as we're all part of the problem, we realize at our summits and in our partnerships that we are also part of the solution. And that's an exciting place to be.
So, can you hear me again?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So it was a video highlighting the sustainability program of the past. This is, for those who don't know well the Volvo Ocean Race, the route of the race from last time. It's just to show that it's a global event. The next slide is showing the vision for the future. So the vision we have in slide 4 is to really make sure that the ocean race is a catalyst to accelerate ocean health restoration. So we have a potential to contribute. Next slide is the architecture of the program, where we can really see that we have a program architecture that is really in the idea of impact, footprint, and legacy. That was our architecture in the past, but we want to make sure that there's a continuity, but we raise a level about in terms of sustainability initiatives and commitments and solutions. So in page 6, we have the highlighting, I'm not going to go into too much details today, but of course I can share that, highlighting the sustainable the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, linked to each of our footprints. We have identified 7 goals that our organizations want to highlight with very clear KPIs and clear objectives. Then in slide 7, I will just highlight a few of them in that presentation. Our main objective will be to create a program that we have called Sailing with Purpose, where we're going to integrate sustainability in every corner possible around sailing at the event level, but also at the sailing team level. So at the sailing team level, it will be sustainability charters, of course, code of conduct, sustainability training, but we will also even push the idea of integrating sustainability in the boat building process and in the renewable energy on board. So lots of very important elements. The science program, as we can see here from last time, was a very successful component of the program last time, because we didn't only race around the world, we also were collecting scientific data to contribute to the understanding of our environment in the most remote places, and that was of great interest for science and got us a lot of media attention and helped us in page 9 to understand that the issue of plastic pollution was really a global problem. If you go to page 9, we can see and highlight the pollution of the seas. The big red dots, of course, the most concentrated area, so there's lots of micro pollution. And it was in a way a discovery to see with a consistent manner how the ocean was polluted. So the idea was clearly to go and create a very solution-oriented program. And in page 10, we are already launching a series of 10 ocean summits and innovation workshops that we call our influencers events, that will gather stakeholders in order to push for commitments and to push for innovation, and to really create a roadmap for action in each of the areas that we can influence around ocean health. And in page 11, our program we've seen in the movie has been very successful. More than 100 kids reached online and the workshops, and we have focused on primary schools. Now we will focus on secondary schools with a strong science program and topic as well. So we're working as we speak on creating the second version of the education program. And to finish, one of the last elements I wanted to highlight is on page 12, the Smart Village Living Lab. We want, here you can see the entrance.
I think we are losing a little bit the connection with you. Your voice is really breaking up.
Thank you for.
Okay. Cecilia, I'm sorry, we lost a little bit of connection with the with your voice. So I hope the other ones can hear me, but apparently there seems to be something not going well for the presentation.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, now it is much better. So
it's with the computer. The phone dropped for some reason.
What you would like? What you were talking about? You were talking about the most recent events that you were doing. The Living Lab, the Smart Living Lab, Smart Village Living Lab. Can you just repeat that, please?
Yes, I mean, that was the last point I wanted to highlight. Is for the future, we are planning a 4-year plan as we speak right now, and we want to integrate sustainability in the Race Village to highlight every possible way where people can not only to show how a village can be sustainable, but how people can participate in a very interactive manner in creating a more sustainable life and planet.
Okay, I see. Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. So, and I think as it was mentioned during the video and Anne-Cécile as well, is that it really is a format now that the Ocean Race has developed that not just sailing events, but other water sports can adapt, can learn from. And it's great to see the active participation. I think Anne-Cécile is often asked to share her experience with other people in the sport and outside of the sport industry. Their willingness to really share these experience with other people so that they can learn from this example for their own respective events. So thank you very much, Anne-Cécile, for giving us a little bit of an insight, and apologies for the poor technical quality that made it a little bit more difficult, but we are happy to share some of this material with you afterwards so that you can have a read through it again. I just want to remind you of the question box. If you have questions during this call, even if there's something that you didn't exactly understand because of the connection, feel free to type them up in the chat box or in the questions section on the right of your screen. I would like to continue now with Lars Bocking, who has been working with the 52 Super Series for more than 15 years, if I'm not mistaken, and he's currently the communication and marketing director and the sustainability officer. And for those who don't know, the 52 Super Series, it's the world's leading Grand Prix monohull racing circuit, and it consists of 45 to 50 races. I haven't counted myself, but that's what it says per season. So it's really a huge event. And furthermore, it has very specific programs related to sustainable food. So I would like to invite Lars to talk to us a little bit about the event, the 52 Super Series, with also the focus on the food programs that they do. And I will again show a few slides to illustrate what Lars will be talking about. So Lars, yours.
So Gert, thank you very much for the short introduction. Yes, I'm working in the world of the 52 since more than 15 years. At that time, the event was called the Audi Met Cup, and then we brought it up again in 2012, and we relaunched the whole event, and it's called now the 52 Super Series. And as you said, yes, we are the number one worldwide when it comes to monohull racing, because they are monohulls and they are the big catamarans, but we are focusing a little bit more on the little bit more traditional sailing. And we do, in the meantime, 6 different events each year. And there we go to different countries and also to different continents. And at the end, that's really important for us when it comes to sustainability, because we can see, that the education is not the same in all the places. There are big differences. For example, when you are in Spain, the education when it comes to sustainability is not on the same level, like, for example, when you go to Sweden. And that makes it sometimes very challenging when you talk to the different stakeholders. And when we're talking about stakeholders, we talk about the local organizers, the yacht clubs, but at the end also, for example, the catering companies. And for us, when we go to the different events, it's really important to get in touch with the organizer locations before. So we have our sustainability program, sustainability policy and guidelines, and we share these guidelines with the different stakeholders just to get them involved before the event starts. And that's pretty crucial, because what I said before, it's different. When you go to Croatia, it's not the same like when you are going to Italy or Spain, or, for example, to the north of Germany. But at the end, when it comes to the event in general, for us, one of the most important things, and that's also what Anne-Cécile already highlighted, is interaction and involvement. Because at the end, for us, the most important ambassadors when it comes to sustainability are our sailors, because they sail on different boats, they go to different events, and for us, it's really important that they spread the message. And what Gert said already before, in 2050, in the sea, we will have more plastic than fish, and that's what we have to avoid. And for us, every single sailor is an influencer. When he goes home to his family, that he starts talking about sustainability in general. And as we know, we are sailors, we are out on the water, and for us, it's a little bit like our office. and we have to protect this playground. And that's really one of the most important messages what we have. The good thing is, like Gert mentioned before, my role is not only doing sustainability, I'm also in charge of marketing and communication. So for us, it's a good opportunity to spread this message. It's very much like Mandela said, the power of sports. And nowadays, sports people, based on their media channels, are really strong influencers. 400 sailors at the different events. We have 10 to 12 boats from different nations. And for us, it's really important to get in touch with them. And when it comes to buzzwords or benchmark, it's very much about involvement and interaction. But as we're saying, the devil is in the detail. One of the big topics what we will have for the upcoming season, because in the past, as we started with our sustainability program in 2014 already, was very much about plastics. We did nearly the same or something similar, like what they did in the Volvo Ocean Race. We're also offering water for free to the fans, to the sailors, just to avoid too many single-use plastics. But now it's the time to do the next step. And one of the biggest topics that we'll have this year on our agenda is food waste. I think most of the people, they don't think about it, but it's really impactful. There are just some numbers from Germany, for example, and that's what we have to keep in mind. In Germany, for example, every single person throws away at least 55 kilograms of food per year. And that means 4.5 million tons in private households. That's 150 grams per person per day. That's a lot of food. And that's what we try. That's one of our objectives. We want to try to change this attitude in the first step, but also, the people have to think about it. Because at the end, the food waste also has a very, very high economical impact. And that's one of the things, discussion what we had in the past, with people being interested in sustainability. Everybody's saying, okay, but sustainability at the end, that's also expensive to do that, to establish a sustainability program. But our point of view is, at the end, sustainability is also a good way to save money. Because when we're talking about food waste, coming back to the event, what does it mean to us? When you talk to the caterer, in the meantime, they order far too much. We have far too much food. And at the end of the event, you will throw it away. Because there are different rules and laws in the different countries that when you used the food already on the buffet, that you can use it again, that you can't use it again. And that's really impactful also when it comes to economics, because you have to avoid the number of food you order. And if you avoid to order too much, you can save money. So that's why I'm talking about at the end for the event organizer, that's also a good opportunity to save money in general. For example, when we're talking about 1 kilogram of meat, can you still hear me? Yes?
Yes, it's fine.
Okay, good. So for example, for 1 kilogram of meat, we need 15,420 liters of water just to produce 1 kilogram of meat. And that has an impact of 13.3 kilogram of CO2. And we have to think a little bit about these numbers. And at the end, what do we throw away? We have to keep that in mind. 34% is fruit and vegetables. The healthy food, we throw that away. And that's very much about, we have to change the situation. I think nowadays it's very much about plastic, but we believe that we have to do the next step. So we want to focus on the food waste in general. The other thing is, when it comes to food waste, we also have to keep in mind where the food is coming from. We are sitting, for example, you go to a nice restaurant in Hamburg and you order, let's say 500 grams of meat, and at the end you throw away, let's say 100 grams. But you have to keep in mind, where the meat is coming from. It's coming from Argentina, the transport. It's the same with the cheese from Switzerland, transport. We have the same situation with nice tuna from Japan, or with apples, everything. And that's, the second way what we have to keep in mind. So the whole thing when we're talking about food waste, for us, it's very much two-dimensional. You know, that we waste the food, and then at the end also where the food is coming from. And that's what we're talking about when it comes to the sustainable impact of food waste. And that's one of the top topics what we have on our agenda for the 2019 season. And there we use our sailors and ambassadors as well, because it's very much, like I said before, about involvement and interaction.
Okay, thank you very much, Lars, for giving us a little bit of insight in how food plays an important role in this. Let me just stop the presentation here. The next person I would like to ask is Katrien Wieser. And interesting enough, we've been talking about large events, commercial events, but there's probably a lot of you who are involved in mid-sized events or events that are under the direction of an international sports federation, under the governance of an international sport federation. And that faces also some different sort of challenges. And that's why I'm very pleased that Katrien is with us today to share a little bit of the work that she has been doing in the International Canoe Federation, also with a different sport, a different water sport. And Katrien has been working for 9 years with the International Canoe Federation, currently in a role as marketing manager, and she's also responsible for the new sustainability strategy of the federation. And we will hear about her experience from, in particular, the last that took place in Augsburg in Germany. How did they put that program together? And in particular, how did they engage athletes? And Katrien will talk us a little bit through that process, what they did, how they went about it. And then afterwards, I'll have a short video to show that I think very nicely wraps up that that project. And once that video is done, we'll have time for questions. So just a reminder to type up any questions that might pop in your mind during Katrien's talk. So Katrien, looking forward to hearing a little bit about your experience within the International Canoe Federation.
Yeah, okay. So hello. Firstly, I would like to say a few words about ICF interest in sustainability. So as you all know, canoeing is an outdoor sport linked to nature and water. And there is obviously a close connection between canoeing and the use of natural resources. So we really think that the ICF has the ability to play an active role in the sustainable development of canoeing. So it's important for us that the canoeing community become aware of their environmental, social, and economical responsibilities. For this requires the active involvement of all groups, starting with the organizers of ICF competition. I will come back to this later. So just a few words to say how we started. So we partnered a few years ago with an association fighting against ocean pollution. By the time, we didn't really have the time, neither resources for concrete actions. So then the IOC, in line with its sustainability strategy, they started to approach IFs on this topic. So this was the first impulse, I would like to say. And today, just to give you a picture of where we are, there is still no specific department dedicated to sustainability within our federation, but I'm in charge of it in top of other duties. So the resources are still limited, but we do what we can step by step. So there is so much to do in the field of sustainability that I decided to have a step-by-step approach and to start with our competitions. We want to take a proactive position and assist the organizers in order to establish the best integration of sustainability at ICF events. So I will just explain a concrete example. So our first step last year was the organization of a sustainability pilot event in Germany. So it was in Augsburg. So Augsburg was a canoe slalom venue in 1972 for the Munich Olympic Games, where the sport made its games debut. And the Augsburg Ice Canal venue was built particularly for this event. It is still in active operation, and some of the biggest canoe slalom events have been hosted in Augsburg for 50 years. So there is really a legacy also regarding the venue itself. So last year we had this canoe slalom World Cup in Augsburg. And so the objective was to develop, the objective of this project was to develop a sustainability management plan with the host organizers. So we planned, we organized this plan in different phases. The two first phases were to prepare and to connect. So we had kickoff meetings with the organizer a few weeks and few months before the event, and then workshop at the venue. So the objective was really to achieve a common understanding between the stakeholders and to create and prioritize a list of sustainable aspects. So during the workshop at the venue, so before the event, the ICF, the organizer, a representative of the athletes, a representative of the city and the person in charge of marketing shared their priorities and success factors. Then the next step, so the result of the discussion led to the development of a sustainability action sheet. So with a list of 26 potential initiatives in the areas of food, water, transport, energy, social awareness, and cost saving. I just noticed that I didn't change my here it is. So then the last phases were to monitor and to report. So surveys to spectators, athletes, coaches, and volunteers, and on-site observation were conducted by a team of researchers during the event. And we also, so the ICF media also interviewed athletes, and we will show you the video afterward. So to give you some examples of initiatives in the area of food, food and water, so they promoted regional food. The main sponsor was a local water provider. There were no plastic bottles. The organizer distributed about 500 reusable bottles to athletes and volunteers. Here on the picture, you can see a water bus from the city of Augsburg, which provided spectators with a water refill. In terms of waste management, for instance, the organizer used reusable dishes only, which mean also reduction of packaging, as food was served in bulk instead of in packaging. And also it was a limited food waste, so the food was served in plates instead of packs. So, and other examples on the local economy area, a high variety of local enterprises were present during the event. And regarding transport and energy saving, one of the most visible initiatives was the presence of bicycle at the venue. They were available for athletes and spectators. And this particular initiative was a result of discussions conducted during the workshop and between the stakeholders, including the city. So these are just some examples, and also there were also some involvement of schools and local population to have also some social awareness. So we interviewed some athletes at the venue. It was interesting to hear. In fact, we were quite surprised because it was interesting to hear that many of them were committed in sustainable actions in their everyday life. And yeah, which is can be quite logical, but at this point we said, okay, there is so much to hear and to share that we should engage athletes more and really communicate on this. So before showing you this video, I just finished about the 2019, so the projects we have this year. So we will reconduct pilot events to two other events this year, Canoe Slalom World Championships in Spain and the Junior and Under 23 Canoe Sprint World Championships in Romania this year. And we will really try to improve our communication post-event and through various channels. We want to engage athletes more as they have a lot to share and also as they are a very good example for the canoeing community. The other projects will be to develop guidelines and toolkits for canoeing events. We will organize a workshop between national federations or organizers to share experiences, as we already have lots of interest from them. We will adapt the bidding application document. So we have lots of ideas, and we will proceed step by step with resources we have at the moment. So really, to conclude, I would say that it's really important for us to, as it's really a start within our in federation, to have a global understanding of the situation and really also to engage people and to have a good communication around it. So this is basically in a few words where we are now. So I think we can show the video if it's okay for you, Gert.
That is fine. So I will. I'm thanking you very much. I will share the video. Doug. This is a video that was taken up during the event, so enjoy the slalom.
We are an outdoor sport, so we have to address that we are outside all of the time, and some of the major things that are going on in our sport are dams on rivers, which decrease the opportunity for us to be able to paddle on beautiful places. So I think that it's a huge responsibility for us to look out and look at what their environmental issues are and make sure that we can help with raising awareness about all of that.
I think it's important to have it clean. I think the most I think the most garbage you see on the rivers are like plastic bottles and stuff like this. So yeah, we have to give like an example, and I think it's a good way to start like this. I have my bottle. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I think it's a good thing to don't bring your own plastic bottle, which sometimes you forget, and maybe on the river or someone just kick it and it ends up in the grass or something. I guess yeah, you can see it's cleaner this way. It's a good thing.
Yeah, I saw some signs around in some areas, and then we get a special bottles, and it was really nice to have it.
The catering, we were using forks, plate, and this, so it can be washable, and it really reduce the amount of being of t-shirt.
It's been really cool to see that a lot of athletes have been jumping on the bandwagon, reducing plastic. So using wooden forks, reusing forks and knives, reusing water bottles instead of having plastic bottles, cleaning up their waste.
有，就比如说环保杯，还有一些自行车。
make a change as well. Yeah, I think especially we are running like nature, like rivers, and so it's a. I think it's good because like for me in my country, sometimes I went bathing and I saw some chairs and the river. I will take it and do the beans.
I think it's important for the athlete because we are a kind of role of a model. So we are the first step to really encourage this kind of initiative. And for example, for me, I try to, in my everyday life, reduce my consumption of energy, water, reducing my waste, and also have a lot of projects on it. An engineer, I mean, I'm still in school. I have some great tools and can really apply. So I'm trying to making some with biomaterials and green epoxy. Trying some research, and why not making a boat for one day? So it reduces a lot of the amount of carbon and using during the boats. And yeah, it's a great initiative. And after that, it's in my everyday life. I use electronic scooter to make all my my traveling and reduce yeah, using my car. So it's great things.
Yeah. So on World Water Day last year, I tweeted to WaterAid Canada that I just was really happy with the work they were doing, and they actually reached out to me and asked me to help with raising awareness for sanitation and water in the world. So I went to Ghana last year, and we launched a program with Right to Play on WaterAid, and helped to raise awareness about how girls across the world are actually the water collectors. So we used our battle with gender equality with Women's Canoe to align the story of women collecting water, and it's called the Water Fight. So I'm still working with WaterAid now. I don't know if I'll do any trips because I actually got very sick when I was in Ghana. It was right before the World Cups last year, and I actually ended up getting double vision. But I think it was a really nice experience for me to have that because I understood what it was like to drink water in a place that I was and get very sick. And you know, most of the people in the world don't have access to clean water or a proper place to go to the bathroom, or girls to deal with their monthly issues. And as athletes, we have a responsibility to raise that awareness so that people know that there's not access to this everywhere in the world.
I think they can develop some program and put a little bit of money to some people, and they can develop solution technology and really encourage all the organization of the World Cup, World Championship to have a kind of yeah, a contract to really say reducing a bottle of water and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, working with athletes, I think, to what they are expecting, and we can make great things all together.
Okay. So I stopped that video. Thank you very much, Catherine, for that part. Let me just go back. We've been listening to different things. We've been looking at the food, at the athletes, at the different types of events, of the scientific activities that we can include in our events, especially in sailing when you get to very remote places. Now I would like to use the last approximately 10 minutes of this conversation to ask a few questions that have come through, and probably also just to the speakers, if you're not talking, if you don't mind muting your microphone, that reduces the background noise. But probably to start with the last person who spoke, Catherine, can you tell us a little bit what you think were the things that really made the pilot with the World Cup in Augsburg a success?
I think it's really So do you hear me? Yeah. I think it's really the fact that it was a start to raise a little bit awareness, and it helps for the communication. And I have to say that I was quite surprised how with our limited budget and time and everything, with what we did, many people came spontaneously to us and saying that they were really approving and supporting and knowing how they could even help us, support us, or asking how we could organize sharing of knowledge, of experiences. So I think it wasn't a success first because we really had concrete initiatives and that the event organizer was involved in it, but also on top of this, all the the new steps that it has thanks to, I mean, thanks to this, I think we are now in a new step, and we have starting something new about this sustainability, about regarding the engagement and involvement of people. It's for me, it's just a first step of everything which is now coming.
And Lars was mentioning about him also being marketing or communications marketing director. You also hold that role as marketing manager in the federation. Do you see there's an importance in those two parts of an organization or of an event working together?
Yeah, it was interesting to hear this, and yes, surely, because really, I mean, this sustainability part, it was really something on, as I explained, on top of my tasks and duties, and really, I also went into it by personal interest. So. And then, that's sure, it helps, and for the vision and for the communication, it's. I mean, you cannot move forward in this area without having a plan and without communicating and without trying to engage people around. So yes, it's a good mix, in fact.
Thank you. There's another question which probably is more directed towards Lars or to SandSI, but I think SandSI has difficulties with the connection. But many of these races or many of these events now happen in different places around the world or around the continent. And how do you make sure that you have some sort of a consistent? If someone asking, how do you have a consistent program with similar things happening at all the different places across the world? Lars, is that something that you can elaborate a little bit on? How do you make sure that it happens in these 45 or 50 races a year?
No, as I've mentioned before, the whole thing about sustainability is an important part of the positioning of the 52 Super Series. And we are proud to have a partner like 11th Hour Racing, who are helping us very much with the whole concept. But the idea is, that it has to be consistent. When we go to the different venues, normally we have a contract for 3 years. So we are going there for a minimum of 3 times. And then we are trying to influence the people there and to help them. For example, what we are doing right now is a so-called yacht club outreach tour. That means that we go to different yacht clubs and we try to influence them to think about sustainability in general. And then we are using the 52 Super Series as a certain kind of a best practice. But I think the consistency is really important, because it's not like that we go somewhere, then we leave, and then we don't care anymore. That's not the fact. We're trying to keep in touch with the people, with the different stakeholders, and that also makes it, so successful, because the people are working on that. When you go, for example, to first time when we went to Puerto Portales, they were not in Mallorca, Spain. They were not thinking about it. And now, after 3 years, they are already proactive. They are creating their own ideas. They are creating their own concepts. And that's really important. And that's how sustainability works. It's very much about changing the mindset. And then we also have to keep in mind it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. We can't change the world within 1 or 2 years. That's not possible. And also keep in mind that already in the 18th century, the forefathers of sustainability, people like Humboldt, they were talking about it. And now it took us something like 300 years to put this topic on the table again. And that makes me a little bit angry. So for us, it's really important, talk to the people, try to change the mindset and to be consistent.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, trying to be consistent and having the right mindset. There's a question here that I really like, so I'm going to ask both of you, and we have a few minutes left, so probably it's the last question. I'm a small water sport event, and I have no budget. Probably I can free up 1,000 francs or 1,000 euros, it says, for sustainability, and a volunteer for a couple of days. What should I do? So the question really is, like, I'm a small event and I have 1,000 euro budget and a good willing student or volunteer probably. What can I do with this? Anne-Cécile, you wanna? Anne-Cécile is no longer with us, but Lars, you wanna start? What would you recommend?
No, I think at the end, when it comes to sustainability or when it comes to things like that, I think it's not a budget. It's nice to have, but from my point of view, it's not the most important. I think the most important thing is to do something, and at the end, you will find other people who will support. What we are doing at all the events where we are going, we're doing the beach cleanup. And there we have 50, 60, 70, 80 volunteers. In Miami, we did one cleanup with 200 people. And there we cleaned one of the beaches and everybody said, okay, it's clean. And there we found something like 250 kilo of trash. That's really impactful. And then you can use that as a story. Because at the end, it's very much about the images and then also very much about influencing the people. So you can start, everybody can do something, and that's not only a question of budget. And the thing with the cleanup, I think that's one of the best things you can do.
Mm-hmm. So engage other people, have an interesting event, and then tell the story, share the story is what you say, and it doesn't even necessarily have to cost much money. Yeah.
Exactly.
Catherine, could you give some ideas? Could you give some advice to this person?
Yeah, I agree that to start with, we don't need a lot of budget. I think that often it's also a question of common sense, and I definitely think we can people can start with very simple actions. And just to prioritize maybe some actions, to start with. I think it's not good to want to do everything in the same time, just to go step by step again and just select some actions that are easy to do, like avoiding plastic bottles, use reusable dishes and things like this. I think it's a lot of common sense, and if you are well organized and if people are motivated, it can be quite easy.
Yeah. So keep it.
Can I add to that?
Sure.
Of course.
Sorry. Sorry. The line of I'm contacting you to the phone and the line is dropping, so I'm constantly trying to join back. But I agree and disagree. I think I agree in the idea of it's a question of a mindset, and that's for sure very important and key to make sure that people are engaged. But at the same time, I think in the funding process, we should consider that as a skilled area, and the more you can gather funding around that area, the more influence you can have. And I think you can start with 1,000 euros to organize the first, sustainability integration initiatives and beach cleanings that don't cost too much. But then you should integrate sustainability at the heart of your funding program and engage funding partners around that. And then it will grow organically. And I think it should not be considered as something nice to have. It should be totally integral of the business model of a new organization. You can be a sailing team, athlete team, or event organizer. I think it has to become a bit more professional, a bit more skilled, and we need to raise, because the planet is in an emergency state, and we need to consider that as an emergency as well. And it's not with a low budget that we can achieve that.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of summing it up. I mean, there's a lot of common sense and there's low hanging fruit, but I think there's really a need and also an opportunity in many sports to really embed it, as Anstey says, into the business model and building partnerships with your sponsors on this team. And actually, a next webinar that we're preparing on is on partnerships for the SDGs. So you might want to keep an eye on that when that is coming up, because there we'll talk a bit more about that. For now, our time is up, so I want to respect the time that everyone has dedicated to this. But let me just thank the speakers, Anne-Cécile, Catherine, and Lars, for their time and sharing their experience with us. Thank you to all of you who were here. Thank you to Benjamin, who was working on the technical side to make sure that things were running well. If you want to follow up on any of this, or you thought of a question you didn't ask, don't hesitate to send an email to the address that's in the invitation, or to info@sandsea.org. So far, I just thank you for your time and wish you an excellent remainder of the afternoon. And we'll close the webinar right now. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.